Welcome to the Fire Sprinkler Podcast with Chris and Logan. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Fire Sprinkler Podcast. This episode is my conversation with Tom Savage from Savage Fire and Life Safety. Tom is kind of a serial entrepreneur. He likes to invent, he likes to start businesses, he likes to grow. So part of my conversation with him was about setting goals and kind of creating systems to smash them out. We talked about how you can get into how the education in the fire protection industry has kind of evolved over the past year with COVID-19 and how people were able to kind of roll with the punches and adapt to the changes that were coming out. So thanks, Tom, for coming on the podcast and talking about this. Big thank you to Gas Manufacturing for having me develop some instructional videos as well as a video podcast that I had with them. Help kind of sharpen the knife and fine tune some skills for some future stuff with the podcast. So keep an eye out for that. Thanks everybody for all the support. Hashtag Fire Sprinkler Podcast. Not going to go on too long of a ramble. Without further ado, here is my conversation with Tom Savage. Enjoy.
Like and subscribe.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Fire Sprinkler Podcast. Had a little bit of a delay there in recordings. Haven't put too much out, but 2021 is the year to grow and the year to do new things. So I've got Tom Savage on the episode today. We're going to talk about how you can kind of set goals personally in the industry to make sure that regardless of the pandemic that's going on, you can still improve yourself in this industry and do everything you can to make yourself the best at what we do. Because in the end, this is life safety, this is fire protection, and that's what it's all about, is making yourself the best to do the job. Tom, how's it going today?
Awesome, Chris. How you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. Everything's so good so far.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still pretty early. It's the 23rd that we're recording this of January, so the year's just kind of getting started, but so far so good.
Yeah. Well, we've had kind of maybe some of your listeners and viewers might know, we've had an interesting first January down here in the U.S. and we're not going to talk too much about that, but it's really started off with a lot of things going on down here. So we're looking forward to 2021.
Canada's been watching. We've been that neighbor peering over the fence, like, what is going on over there?
What are they doing? What are they doing down there? So, and if you don't mind, I just want to say a quick congratulations and shout out to Rick Bucher for becoming the president and CEO of Victaulic.
Yes.
I've worked with Rick for 20 some years, and great choice for a new leader over there at Victaulic.
Yeah, awesome. Excited to see what kind of things they do. A couple things I'm pumped with Victaulic for. A couple things I'm a little disappointed with Victaulic for, but those are personal opinions. I'm not a big fan of some of the stuff going on with Globe, but that's a personal opinion, and everybody's entitled to their opinions.
Well, I think Susan and Bob Ballard, Susan Shearwagon and Bob Ballard have fire protection covered over there. So
absolutely,
should be a good year. But anyway, congratulations to Rick for the promotion.
Absolutely, congratulations as well. So why don't we start by saying, last time we talked, we were talking about kind of what you were going to be doing with Savage Fire, Fire and Life Safety. You had 5 products. You had these goals set in mind. And kind of the idea for the podcast today is to talk about your goals, everybody's goals, and if you were able to meet them, how you were able to meet them, and what listeners can do to kind of help themselves meet their goals. So of the goals that you had set last year, how many of them have you knocked out of the park, and how many of them have room for improvement?
All of them have room for improvement. I've knocked a couple out of the park, I will say. Had really for last year, starting in January, I started Savage Fire and Life Safety products in January of last year. So we just celebrated our year, and thanks for everyone on LinkedIn that said congratulations. I appreciate that. And had a number of different goals set. First was to really get, as you mentioned, 5 products signed up, and I want to limit Savage Fire to 5 products to really be able to bring value to the industry. as a distributor for these products. One of the ones that I will say was on my vision board last year that came to fruition this year or manifested this year was I am now a distributor for Modgal Quick Cup. These guys are the inventor of the 1-bolt coupling. Really excited to be teaming up with the folks at Modgal and Quick Cup this year. So if nobody's heard of them, you'll be hearing about them more this year, and I'm really excited about the goals for this year when it comes to Quick Cup.
What's just generally speaking about those couplings? What are the sizes available for those? Are they available all the way up to 8-inch, 12-inch, 10-inch,
Yeah.
etc.?
Oh yeah. We've got all sizes. We've got fittings. We've got all the products that you'd want. We have 2-bolt and 1-bolt as well. But you know, my view, and I think you'll remember one of my last patents while I was at Victaulic was around a VicFlex captured coupling, and that was a 1-bolt on the end of the VicFlex. So I'm a big believer in 1-bolt. Yep. It does take some changes, but it really kind of takes us out of having to remember to tighten. You're just tightening up that 1-bolt.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the way the industry is working right now, and it's almost a slogan for the podcast. You're either going to evolve with the industry, or the industry is going to evolve without you.
I think you're right. I mean, that's pretty much what we're talking about here. We've got a new year. You know, when you and I were talking ahead of the podcast a couple of weeks ago, you know, new year, new you, and yes. It's what are you going to do for your mind, body, and soul? And that's not just for you personally, for all of your listeners and your viewers. You know, what really it's about is, if you take care of yourself, you're taking care of your business. You're taking care of the industry. You're taking care of the folks that are working with you on your teams. And but don't forget to take care of yourself. You know, one of the things that if any of us that fly, you'll remember when those oxygen masks fall down, what do they tell you to do?
Put the one on yourself first. Take care of yourself first.
There you go. And so, you know, for me, it's for the body. Like this morning, I got up real early. I'm sure you were up early as well. My kids are out of the house, but you know, got to work out this morning and focus on my mind a little bit as well while I'm working out.
Right. And so I wanted to touch on one thing that you mentioned earlier. And this is kind of along with your goals, and I'm asking you about your goals now here. Why the 5-product limit? Why are you limiting yourself to 5 products specifically?
When I first started, I thought the power of 3, right? So we all know about the power of 3. We can really focus well on 3. But then I thought there's so many new and innovative products out there in the industry. I want to keep it to a small number of products, because what I've seen in the industry is that maybe there's not enough focus from a distribution standpoint in supporting the contractor. And for any distributors out there, this is something that, you know, I think all of us can do, is how do we add value for our contractors and for the general contractors, so that we're not just selling what somebody's looking for. We can do that, but also what are the new tools? Right. As you say, Chris, the evolution. What you're using today is not what you were using 5 years ago, and what you're going to use in 5 years is not what you're going to use today, is not what you're using today. And so that's really my focus was, I know and I feel confident that with 5 products, myself, my team, we can focus on that and help the contractors with looking for how do we help them add more value back into the equation.
Right. So it's about essentially becoming a expert at 5 products and 5 products only, and not trying to be a general, not trying to know generally about everything, but knowing everything about 5 things.
Yeah, that I don't need to do that. The industry doesn't need another. We've got that covered. Our distribution right now across the world has got that covered.
Right.
What I think is needed, and why I started the industry or started the business in fire protection, is to add something that's not there right now. And I think that goes back to almost some of the first jobs I had in sales, working in steel mills. And
Mhm.
how do you add value in a steel mill? You better have some pretty good products, because everything is considered a commodity in a steel mill.
Right.
And that's, with 5 products, I'm up to 4. The last time we spoke, I had 3 products.
Yep.
I think you'll remember I have the Senju sprinklers.
That's right. Yep.
That's first product. Then Metroflex
Yep.
seismic loops. Um, but I'll show you something. Oh my gosh, this is really too heavy. But also some Fire Straight. So if anybody's interested, this is a great new product from those guys. And I'll just do real quick, and adjustable drops from
Right.
Aegis. Right? How
Yes.
many of
Yep.
us are using flexible drops when you could really benefit from using an Aegis adjuster?
And that's just for anybody that's listening as opposed to watching the video, which is available on YouTube now. Hopefully, I get it up on YouTube at the same time as I release the audio. The adjustable drop is strictly a thread in, thread out adjustable coupling that can change the elevation. I use those. Those have been around for. They're not. It's not a
A
new
long
product.
time. No,
They've
it's
been
not a
around
new
a long
product.
time. And
Yeah.
in a family business that we are, my old man grabbed them for a project that we were doing that was a large room with a drywall lid. And it was a sure you can shoot a laser, but this might even have been before lasers were used. A
Yeah.
lot, right? I'm not an old guy, but it was, there might have
No,
been two or
lasers are
three of
kind of.
them in Western Ontario. So he got these adjustable drops, and then once it was all framed in and done, it was minor adjustments from the not from the ground, but minor adjustments from underneath if necessary.
If necessary. And that's where right now it's a lot of contractors have just converted over 100% to flexible drops, and there's a lot of reasons why we as an industry use those.
Right.
But there's also applications where hard pipe still makes sense.
Yes, I'm big on hard pipe. I like threading things and sticking it together and grooving things and piping it together solid. But I see the benefit of flexible drops in you rough in an area, you test it, and it's tested. It's done.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
That's what I like about it. If you're doing like a retrofit of a school and you have time is of the essence and you don't want to have to go back and then hard pipe all your drops and you put the flexes up. When you do the roughing, you put your flexes up and then you wait for the guy to come and frame his T-bar and pop them down in after.
Yeah. 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 And so my 4th product, which I already mentioned, is Quick Cut.
Yep.
The couplings and fittings. I think this is a company that world-class company, that the quality is amazing and the technology is even more amazing. And
Right.
so I'm looking forward to a really exciting 2021. I still have to work on the 5th product, and I have 2 products that are competing for that spot right now,
Right.
and we'll see what happens over the next couple months.
You wouldn't tell me if I asked you, would you?
You know what? I can't. I would love to. I'd love to let you know. But
Yeah.
that, back to what we're talking about, is that's setting a goal. I
Yes.
had a goal for this, right? And
Yep.
and when you have a goal, one of the things I think is good for you and I to talk about is you don't want to constantly be changing your goals,
Right.
because if you do that, you're always going to get halfway there, and then you're going to hit some resistance or something's going to happen, and you're going to say, well, let me change the objective. And that's really not what you want to do. There's times where you need to change what you're doing, right? You need to
Yep.
adapt. But if you have a goal in mind, you really want to keep thinking about that. And so many of my goals on my vision board that I have,
Hmm.
um, and I always keep that. I have multiple copies of that. I keep it with me all the time. Many of the ones are the same from last year because I didn't achieve those goals, right? Some of
Right.
them are 3-year goals that I'm achieving. And so you want to have that in front of you and have a mix of goals, not only for your mind, your body, and your soul. You want to feed yourself positive attitude, right? That's what it's really
Yep.
about. And you want to give positive attitude.
So in saying you set a goal and that's your goal. I agree to the principle, but I also disagree where some of your goals need to be fluid. In regards to if I set a goal and I reach that goal, so that goal is just done. I think I think goals can be fluid as far as if you reach a goal and it was too easy and there's a next step behind that, right? Like I understand that could be used as multiple goals. Um, but if I set a goal for myself to do, um, and it was reachable, but it wasn't maintained. The goal doesn't change to be, for example, me. I'll use my example right now because a list was generated and so over the last 6 months, I will say the podcast has kind of taken a back step to life. I had some issues going on at the house here with our
Oh
gasoline
yeah.
spill, like
Hmm.
that. Um, I was the number one fire protection podcast for about 2 years, and a list was generated, and I didn't make the top five. I'm a
That
competitive. I've played sports my whole life. I'm a very competitive guy. When I saw that list, I start making phone calls. Who can I reach out to? Now it's time to start pumping out episodes, right? Now I got to start getting content. Now I got to start improving my product. So my goal was to create an effective and a educational podcast about fire protection to better the industry, get the industry to that next level. I met the goal. I made the podcast, but the goal is not done and is never done because I'm not still delivering that product, right? So the goal was met and then the goal fell off. I got to go back to that goal.
Yeah, yeah. And we're kind of talking the same thing here because what you're doing is you're recognizing sometimes what we do, and you found it. So I have a goal, and I won't share it because it's it's a crazy number. But let me just say that my goal this year is to 10x what I did last year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so you'd say, well, wait, how are you gonna do that?
Right.
Or if you're in product development for one of the fire protection companies and you have a new product, you need to set some objectives. You set an objective with the podcast.
Yes.
Sometimes, and I'll say most of the time, Chris, what I find is that all of us underestimate what we can achieve in, let's just say, 2 years, 3 years versus what we can maybe achieve in 6 months. And so that's
Right.
really where your example is a great one for everybody listening and viewing us right now, is that you set an objective, you achieved that really early.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. So now when you go back and set another objective relative to the podcast, I bet you're setting, you're not only number one in North America, you're number one global, or you're number
Right.
one including Mars. You know,
I mean, I
you'll,
think I think I'd be the number one podcast on Mars right now. I think
I
so.
well, if that Tesla Speedster or Roadster is still flying up there and playing this your podcast, maybe you will be.
I don't know. We didn't work out any kind of agreement with Elon Musk yet, but
but
hopefully
but
down the
but I
road.
think but I think that's really what I found is when you set
Right.
objectives, what I'd like to encourage everybody is just make sure that you don't set an objective that is too low,
Right.
because your potential and the potential of your company, right? Don't get lost in the details as you want to grow your company.
Right.
Set the right goals, and if you don't make them, so I think when you ask me, did I achieve all my goals? Well, some I hit it out of the park. A lot of the ones I didn't, and part of the reason is I've set some pretty lofty goals for myself,
Right.
and so I didn't achieve them. Now I'm not concerned about that because I'd rather be in the game. I'd rather be doing, and if I didn't achieve it, I just work on it this year.
So let's talk a little bit about the difference between personal goals and professional goals.
Mm.
Because I'm assuming with your vision board, and everybody has a different way. Some people do lists. I have a buddy who's had he's got a bucket list,
Mm.
and to not, uh, it was back from my MMA days, and he always had this. It was a bucket list, right? And it was
Yeah.
just he scribbled down these things on a piece of paper, and then one day he made it, he laminated it, framed it. It's a vision board, but it's a bucket
Well,
list,
yeah,
and
it's
it's all
laminated.
that's right. Yeah. So he's had his since, I'll bet you we were 19 years old when he made that, and we were still early on in
To
the
have
MMA
pictures
thing.
or words? Was it
Nope,
pictures or
just
words?
words, just words and
Yeah.
check
Okay.
boxes beside it, right? And
Yeah.
and his he had some of his were nuts, right? Like some of them are like attend, some of them are dumb, right? So like attended professional sports from every one of the major sports events, hockey, lacrosse, uh, basketball. Fairly easy to do, but takes a couple years if you're not like, you're not making a ton of money. It takes a little bit
Right.
of time, right? So his first one was to take a professional MMA fight, win 10 professional MMA fights, do this, do that, do that. You know what I mean? Like he
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
goals like that, right? And just seeing him check them off, like he had it in his bag in the locker room after a fight. Boom.
Yeah.
And you could just see a little smirk on his face, and he didn't make a big deal out of it, but it was just done,
Yeah.
put it back in his bag, right? And
Yeah.
I'd be like, I saw what you just did there, and he's like, that's what it's about, man.
Yeah. He's keeping track, right?
That's
And
right.
so
Yep.
I'm in my vision board, and so I've always had goals. Okay,
Yeah.
so if anybody that works at large companies, and I started working out of school, I started working at large companies, and I've evolved over my career into starting my own businesses.
Right.
But when you start working at big companies, you know about writing goals for you have objectives for what you're going to achieve, and your boss or your leader may ask you what your goals are, and you set your goals, right? So everybody has that, and I did that for years. I can tell you that once I started to put pictures, and this is not for everybody, it's just how my brain works, is
Right.
once I started to set my objectives with pictures, it completely changed the effectiveness of my ability to achieve and exceed those goals. So everybody's different, but I have both personal goals. So the personal goals are around the family, around my wife and I celebrating. Last year was our 30th anniversary.
Congratulations.
And yeah, we're really looking forward to celebrating it this year because last year was kind of difficult to.
Right.
I had that trip to Paris planned, and we couldn't go. But um, you have those personal goals, but I also have my business goals. And what you find is if you can have both of those match up, that's when
Right.
you're going to have the most success. And it's very difficult to balance those two. But
Hmm.
a lot of your listeners, a lot of your viewers may be business owners,
Hmm.
and they may understand that aspect of making sure that you're balancing, but you're setting those goals. So for my top three business goals for this year that are
Yep.
on my vision board. So these are words, but I have pictures for these. Um, launch a new product with the Quick Cup
Right.
company.
Yep.
Um, get the fifth product signed up to Savage Fire and Life Safety Products. So that's a big one. Complete out the business, um, and commercialize some new fire protection technology that I've been working on.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so you would say, wait a second, what does that mean? Well, I've got some new technology I'm working on, and I've launched new technology at these larger companies, right? But
Hmm.
a lot of us, when we have all these kind of great ideas, and oftentimes we think, well, only a big company could commercialize that technology, right? How many of us
Yep.
have an idea that we say, and then we see it out there, and we say, well, I had that idea 10 years ago, right? Well, guess what?
Yeah.
We all have those thoughts. The
Yep.
difference for me is starting this year. My goal is I'm going to make that a reality for me and my business.
Right.
So
Yeah.
for Savage Industries, right? That and you might say, well, that's a crazy goal because that's not that's new technology for the industry, but there's a lot of good ideas out there, and that's my those are my top three objectives and goals for this year.
And the important thing to note with these goals also is that it's not going to be smooth sailing. If it's smooth sailing, you're probably not doing the right thing, right? If it's too easy, When I first came up with the idea for the Fire Sprinkler podcast, I reached out to a lot of people. I've been involved in the industry for a number of years, and I'm still relatively young. I got a lot of time left under my belt. I reached out to a couple people that I respect very heavily in the industry, run the idea by them. And a couple of them, which actually drove me being the competitive guy that I am, a couple of them said, like, great idea, don't think you're the guy to do it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it was like a ooh, like it's actually a really good idea. I think it's an idea that there's nobody that does it right now. You're right, but I don't know if you're the guy to take that idea and make it what it needs to be. So I immediately was like, all right, game on. Here we go.
See,
Right?
and I love that's because of your competitive spirit. But a
Yes.
lot of us out there don't have that same competitive spirit. So sometimes our friends, right, are our worst enemy
Yes. Yes.
because
Agreed.
you
Agreed.
have that idea and you responded in a that motivated you.
Right.
Others would listen to that and say, well, see, they're right. I'm not the right person for this. I'm not
Yep.
I'm not the right woman. I'm not the right man for this. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
That's the part that we want to be talking about this year, and that to me is part of the soul and the body aspect of what we want to be doing. Is don't forget that that's what you that you need this year, and focus on that.
Right. I'm going to reset my camera right now. So hold on a second because it just froze up there. You could probably see it froze. Yeah, that was weird. It was about 25 minutes. Anyways, no,
There you're back.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's the point is that I can't remember who it was that said it, but anything worth doing, if you're not getting any negative feedback from a goal that you've set for yourself, then you're probably not heading in the right direction. If everybody
No,
is just that's the way to go, that's the way to go, that's the way to go, chances are everybody else has already thought of that. You need to think outside of the box, get a little bit of resistance down the road with it, and then move forward from there.
there isn't a
Um,
single product that I worked on that I didn't have negative feedback.
right.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think this is something I'll give Rick a shout out for. Is a big thing that he really emphasized was fail fast.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And so wait, you think, well, what does that mean? Fail fast. You're already assuming there's going to be failure. The answer is yes, because if you're not pushing, you want to find those boundaries. You want to do it in a smart way, so it's not reckless failure,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
But don't be discouraged by if you try something it doesn't work out. When I launched my companies in 2020,
Yep.
in January, I had no clue. None of us did what was going to happen in March.
Well, if you did, like, I mean,
Well, if you, yeah, right.
thanks for
Um,
warning us, right?
yeah, right. So there's a thing that 2020 did not go as planned.
Right.
But I can tell you I did a lot of work over 2020, and I think that's what we want to be looking at. Is we come from one of our worst years ever, right? From some of this thing, and by the way, for some of us, it's been our best year ever, right? So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
some of it's been our best year ever,
Yep.
and so, but whether it's your worst year or your best year, you're coming into 2021 and you want to make your this year better than it was last year, and that's really
Absolutely.
that's what we want to be talking about here, and make sure you're setting the objectives within your business, and when you do that, you will be successful.
Right. So my goal, the one goal that I mean we'll talk about here is I am going to be writing my CFPS certification from NFBA here in a month or so. I don't have a
Mm-hmm.
solid date. I do, but I'm not going to hold myself to it. I've been working through the virtual online training from NFPA, which is fantastic. If anybody's looking to get that certification, and you have your, I believe it's the NFPA advanced membership, online training is free, and it's an excellent program running through it.
Yeah.
I can't say enough about it. There's a couple little things as a sprinkler guy that I wasn't too fond of. Some of the logos and symbols and drawings, upright sprinkler in the pennant position. it's a digital little picture of a sprinkler, but they've got it in the wrong orientation. And as a sprinkler guy, I was like, oh, come on.
Hey, Chris, feedback is a gift. So anybody from
That's right.
NFPA listening, there you just got a gift.
I've already had a couple people from NFPA lined
Yeah,
up where they saw I posted on LinkedIn that I was going to be studying for my CFPS, and a couple people from NFPA reached out for some feedback, and that's
that's
one of the
awesome.
things I said. I was like, there's a couple things there that I'm not it's an excellent program. I won't say anything about the facts and the information and the way it's relayed is excellent, but just some of those sprinkler slides coming from NFPA, it's got to be factual. It's got to be
Yeah,
just tighten up
yeah,
there.
yeah,
And it wasn't
yeah.
out of, I think I'm at almost 50 hours of online training. I think it's a 44-hour, but I did a couple of them twice just because I'm a sprinkler guy. I don't know
Mhm.
anything about explosion prevention and stuff like that in NFPA 101. That's all
Okay.
completely new to me, right? And awesome. Love learning about it. But the things that I can focus on and note, I picked up on and was like, "Ooh, come on now."
So your objective with that is you said earlier that you don't want to commit to a time, but your commitment is you're going to get that done in 2021. You're
My
not
goal is
worried
the first
about what
quarter of
week you're going to get it
2021.
done.
No, it's
There
the
you go.
first quarter, the end of
First
March.
quarter.
I'm
There
gonna
you go.
have, I'm at least gonna have, no, it's gonna be successful, but I'm gonna write that test by the end of February, um, and hopefully have CFPS behind my name by the end of March.
Yeah, there you go. So for all the list, that's how you want to be setting your goals, is you
Yeah,
want to have a target. And guess what? If you don't finish it in the first quarter, you're not going to give up on it, right? You're going to complete it in the second quarter.
that's right. Yeah, yep,
Yeah. So because who knows, your business is going to take off so much that you're going to be on jobs all the time.
that's right.
And
Yes. Well,
right.
so and that's the other thing here. Canada is opening things up a little different than the US is.
Mm,
Right? So we're a lot slower. I'm still working from home, which I don't know if I'll ever go back to working to the office. I love working from home. Traffic's way better. Sometimes there's a couple redheaded kids on the stairs that slow me down, but other than that, it's golden, right? My boys
yeah.
are
Yeah.
redheads. It's not an insult. But yeah, I like I say, I think
I
I think this COVID thing changed the way business is going to be done. And I think the people that are going to be successful coming out of this are the ones that were able to roll with the punches. That little shot back to the NFPA presentation I did last year, and NFSA, sorry, and expand and grow with this pandemic and evolved with it. Right, a lot of businesses have been shut down, and it sucks, but a lot of businesses have flourished because they understand this is just you can't change it. This is just the
well
way it has to go.
think about NFPA, how
Yes.
they pivoted as well to online. You know,
Yes. Yep.
and all the in-person classes, and a
Yep.
lot of the manufacturers did the same thing. They switched from in-person training to there's a lot of online training, for example, and that's so there's a silver lining, and so that's how you
Hmm.
take life happens. I think this is a guy, Tony Robbins, says this,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Life happens for you, not to you,
Yes.
right? And
Yep.
so that's an example of NFPA, and it's an example of what you're doing. You've decided you're going to take you're not going to let that hold you back. You're going to take the training
Right.
online.
So I will give even like NFPA did it this year, but NFSA did it last year faster. The NFSA convention was
That's
supposed to
awesome.
be in Arizona,
Yeah, that's
end of
right. Hmm.
April, and they had a laundry list of presenters, excellent presenters. I was supposed to be going down to Arizona to do a half-hour presentation on technology and fire protection with Joe
There you go.
Meyer.
Okay.
Um, and then a week or two after COVID hit, they made the decision to go completely virtual. So they then reached out to all the presenters and were like, we need you to record your presentation. If you had an hour and a half, we need to trim you down to about 20 minutes.
Mm,
Um, Record a video, and then we will upload your video per the schedule and go that way. So it was, we talk about
That's
rolling with the
awesome.
punches and adapting to COVID. They did that. NFSA completely changed the way they presented their NFSA expo and convention in days.
In
And
days. Yeah.
it was awesome to watch. And there was a couple of minor little hiccups, but for the most part, those 2 days, it was, I wasn't standing in the sun. I didn't have to go to the airport, but it was an excellent conference and an excellent presentation. And we're all supposed to be going back this year, but chances are it's not going to go down this year either.
Oh, I'll tell you what. Being in Arizona, I still would be preferred to be in Arizona than online, standing in the sun. But you're
Agreed.
right. I mean that. So you're one of your goals is that CFPS and doing that
Yes.
online. What
Yep.
are some of your other goals?
So I've got a couple other certifications because essentially right now I consider myself a fitter in a golf shirt. I'm a designer. I'm a project manager. I'm general manager of a sprinkler contracting company right now, as well as host of the podcast. But those are my professional things, and I have no certifications behind my name. I'm educated. I know a fair amount about the industry. I don't know everything about the industry. I'll be the first to admit that. But dealing with certain architects and engineers on projects where I'm first introducing myself, I have no accreditations to my name.
Hmm.
So I'm Chris Logan, and you gotta trust me.
Yeah.
So my goal for this year is to not to say to collect the alphabet soup behind my name, but to get some certifications behind my name and accreditations that will assist people in understanding that when you start a conversation with me about fire protection, I have a general idea of what I'm talking about.
Yeah. 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 Well, I think that comes, so there's a balance, right? So, I have a couple degrees and
Mhm.
you think, oh, well, that's important. But the reality is what we do and I think that's where a lot of the companies, a lot of the sprinkler contractors started from folks that were fitters.
Right,
And that they 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 didn't go to business school, maybe some
right,
did, but you don't have to start a business. Imperfect action, right? and
right.
and you get it done and you work through that. So I think that's, it's also what you do, and I think a lot of your folks in the industry know you for the experiences that you have, and there's no taking away from the experiences.
Right.
And
Yep.
I think that's an important part of our industry. And then a lot of the suppliers, a lot of the distributors have some information that can help as
Hmm.
well. So it's looking for the alphabet for folks, and then it's also utilizing your resources.
Yes.
Uh, as a business owner or somebody in the industry, you don't have to do it alone. A lot of us do things alone, right? But you don't have to. You can also focus on maybe this year for me. Another one is growing my network within
Right.
the industry, right? And
Yep.
having a mastermind group, a group of people that come together and talk about issues that maybe just be business issues, not focused on fire protection or distribution,
Hmm.
but may apply to what I do in fire protection.
So let's quickly now, not to wrap things up, but
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
quickly kind of go through your process for goal setting. And then we'll probably have to hop on another call here in the next week or so and talk about how to close those goals out. So,
yeah.
what is your process? Is it a December thing? Is it a constantly evolving thing, or is it a December 31st? You sit down with a piece of paper and a pen, you draw a line down the middle, and say, "This is what I want to do, and this is what I have to do."
Yeah, for me, because my year, the way I view my year is January 1st to December 31st. So I start the goal setting, the new year goal setting in December. And my
Okay.
target is to have my vision board laminated, finished, locked in by December 31st. Okay. Now,
Okay.
throughout the year, as I mentioned, I always have these goals in front of me. And I'm constantly checking myself, like your friend in the MMA,
Yep.
checking off what I do and adjusting as appropriate what the goals are.
Hmm.
So it's a constant process that we want to do. but I really do use December. And to really start it, I'll take a morning. Usually it's a Saturday or Sunday morning, get up early, and I'll just go for a few hours and just focus on what my goals are and really get focused on what I want to do. And then I'll come back to it. That's why it's not something that I do. Some people can do it. I can't. I do it over a period of time. So I'll work on it and then I'll come back to it and then
Right.
I'll finalize it. Okay.
Okay.
These are specific goals, they're measurable, and they have targets. Right. So
So you have a main goal and then sub goals underneath. This is how I reach that goal. So you have your goal, and then do you have kind of like a checklist underneath it of
mhm.
kind of mini goals, like create a business plan, acquire such and such company, set up meeting with such and such company, acquire, close deal, blah blah blah? Or is it that's my goal, I have to do anything that I can imagine to reach that goal?
Okay, so yes, the vision board is more of the bigger picture. Okay.
Okay.
So then
Yep.
from that, I'm writing down those specific goals. So one of my goals is to feed my mind. Okay.
Right.
So feed my mind, positive thoughts, read some things. One of the books this year that I've already read is The Practice by Seth Godin.
Okay.
I have nothing to do. It's just a great business book that, as anybody that's viewing this can see, a lot of notes. I think I took 8 pages of handwritten notes from that book.
Yep.
So it's now I set a goal of I want to read 10 books this year.
Okay.
So yes, now I've checked off one.
Yep.
Right. And then I'm working on Zero Hour is another book I'm reading right now.
Yep.
So you just check off those sub goals, and you just want to keep track of it. It is not rocket science. I guess the
Right.
thing is for everybody here, when we're thinking about new year, new you, it's really about just taking some time to focus on yourself. And when I do it, if I work out, I'm working out at 6 a.m. Right. That's the part, because when you first think about working out, you say, well, I don't have enough time. Right. So how, especially if you have kids,
Mm-hmm.
if you're running a business, it really is difficult, but you have to kind of set that goal and then
Right.
find the time, right? Because to work out at 6 o'clock, you're getting up before 6 o'clock, which for me, that's that's a little bit different. A lot of fitters out there, they're getting up at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, right?
That's right.
Anyway,
Yeah. That's right. Yep.
so maybe it's the other side. The goal is to work out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Find the time.
Yeah, and don't let the excuses kind of come in. I'm making a scribble of notes here while I'm going with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a matter of you set your goals, and it's just getting into the mentality. And again, I read as well. I read quite a bit of books, and one of the ones, I can't remember which book it came from, was just like set your goals, and then all you have to do is reach it. It's not like it can be a very difficult process. Don't get me wrong, but you set your goal, and then your only job is to just do that one thing. And it's similar to I don't know if you've read the book, but like Eat That Frog or Eat the Frog.
No, I haven't.
So it's a book about essentially you start your day. Your day starts off, and you've got that one thing that you always put off to the end of the day because it's going to be the most monotonous, it's going to be the most boring, it's going to be the most labor intensive, it's going to be the bane of your existence. Just get it done first thing in the morning. Just eat.
I never read that book, but that's a great tip for anybody listening,
Yeah.
because when I do that, when I have the experience of saying I've got, I know I have to do these 3 things today, and there's one that I know is more difficult. When I get that accomplished before 10 a.m. or
Right.
whenever, early, you feel so much better for the rest of the day.
The day is done, right? You're
Yeah.
just everything else you do after that is essentially it's another feather in the cap. But if you eat that frog first thing in the morning, your day is going to get better from there because you've done the worst thing that you could possibly do. What else could happen?
And it's done. It's
That's
done.
right.
Now, So the thing about goals, I'll say this, and this is something from many, many, many years ago. Think about when a ship leaves a harbor,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Does somebody on that ship, does the captain know where that ship is going?
Generally speaking, yeah.
Generally speaking, I would say
Yeah.
100%. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say 100% because there are some captains, that just said, but they know where they're going.
That's right.
Absolutely, because they've set a goal, and now they may have to turn here, turn there to get to that goal. But when
Yes.
they leave the harbor, they know where they're going.
Right.
That's what it is about setting goals. If you leave that harbor and you did not set a goal, you it's a big ocean out there,
That's right.
right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I think that to me, that's a good way to look at goal setting and why you would want to do it versus not wanting to do it.
So you're looking at more focus on the objective as opposed to how you get there, because the way you get there, and that's what I was talking about earlier, about your goal has to be a little more fluid, and maybe it's not the
Amen.
goal has to be fluid, but the way you get to that goal has to be fluid. It's not just I have to reach this goal by doing this, this, and this, because if this and this doesn't work, then this and this isn't going to work. So you have to
Right.
be able to, my goal is to do this. My goal is to get from Sarnia, Ontario to London, Ontario. Most direct route is to take the 402. 402 shut down for construction. Guess what? I still have to get to London, right?
Right. You're
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
And so same thing. You've set the goal that the Sprinkler podcast is going to be back at number one.
That's right. Yes.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but you have no idea on how you're going to get there. And it doesn't
Oh, you're
matter
right.
because you're still
Right.
moving, but you're moving towards it, right?
Exactly.
You're moving
Yes.
towards it.
That's right.
And that's
Yep.
exactly what I'm saying is set the goal. Don't worry too many times. We don't take the first step because we can't see the next step.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
what you want to avoid, right?
Right.
A way I've always looked at this is a horizon contract, right? Set a horizon goal. So you
Right.
can just see right over the horizon, but you can't see beyond the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
So set that goal to where the
Yeah.
horizon, but you may say, I want to be at the other end of the world, but you're not really sure how you're going to get there. It's okay. You don't have to
Yeah.
know that.
Jim Carrey, he's got a pretty famous YouTube clip out there where I think it was Jim Carrey made himself a deal, set himself a goal where he was going to get at some point 5 years or something like that down the road, he was going to make $10 million to make a movie.
Yeah.
And he did a bunch of flops and a bunch of flops and a bunch of flops. And what he did is he actually physically wrote himself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered. And it was within that 5 years, I think it was Dumb and Dumber or something like that. He signed the contract for Dumb and Dumber, $10 million. And it obviously the contract didn't say acting services rendered, but he kept that check in his wallet for 5 years, and
Yeah.
he kind of put his nose to the grindstone and got it done. And that was it. And I don't know if I'm allowed to just include YouTube clips into things like this, but I'll see if I can find that clip and I'll pump it in right here, right now.
Yeah, Chris, I think you're exactly right of setting those objectives. And don't worry, you don't have to be Jim Carrey to set those goals. I know friends of mine that are in that work for architects, work for engineers, that are at sprinkler contractors all throughout the world. And the ones that are successful, if you take the time to ask them, and if you think about what you've done, you'll find out that they have set goals. They didn't know how
Absolutely.
they were going to get there, but they set goals. They had an
Yep.
objective. Something set a fire, not literally, a fire under their feet, and got them and got them to do something, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So
Tom, we've gone off on setting your goals, making sure they happen, things like that. We're gonna have to talk here probably in another week or so about the actual process, because that was the idea behind this.
yeah,
But we kind of we get sidetracked a lot, but that's the beauty of the podcast is it's very conversationalist. I got about a page and a half here of notes that I'm gonna now take and put into fruition here. we're going to talk again. There is going to be a part 2. This will be part 1 of a 2-part, I don't know, who knows, the way we go, maybe 3-part series about setting your goals for 2021, and we'll get more into the actual planning and staging portion. Does that sound good to you?
That sounds awesome. And let's do it right around the end of the first quarter, because I want to hold you accountable, help you hold yourself accountable. How's that? So great talking to you today,
good.
Chris. And
Awesome.
yeah, and for everybody listening out, Happy New Year, and here's to setting goals and achieving them.
Absolutely, knocking them out of the park. Thanks for coming on the Fire Sprinkler Podcast. First guest of 2021, Tom Savage.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
Hey everyone, this episode of the Fire Sprinkler Podcast is done. If you liked this episode, leave a review, comment, or hop over to my social media pages and let me know. Just search Fire Sprinkler Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Don't forget to hashtag Fire Sprinkler Podcast and anything you think I should know about or see. If you have any suggestions for future episodes of the Fire Sprinkler Podcast, email info@firesprinklerpodcast.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Take care.